Hey guys, this is Smithy. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a very special one. Today we're going to compare like my special shadow palettes together. So I have quite a few with me. These are like my all shimmer palettes or mainly shimmer palettes I would say, but has like duochromes and multichromes in it. And I want to compare some of the shades that are in these palettes so that if you have one, you can make the decision if you need the other or not. I'm mainly going to focus on this Gourmande Girls Ethereal palette and some of the It Spell formulas, because a lot of people have been asking like what do I prefer, and it totally depends on you. Like because Gourmande Girls shimmer formulas are like more like thicker by every means I would say, but It Spell Cosmetics have like different formulas in their palettes. Some of them are more like sparkly, shimmery like goodness, and the others are definitely more of like a smoother and a thicker formula. So we'll compare everything together, but this would be like our base palette to compare all the shades. So yes, if you're ready to see all the comparison swatches and the comparable shades, then please keep on watching. Okay, the first shade in this palette is called Pure, and I felt like this Pure shade is very similar to the shade in the Gourmande Girls Radioactive palette, and the shade is called Radon. Is it like a total similar shade? There might be like a few slight difference, but on the eyes it looks very similar. So let me swatch both the shades. So first let's swatch Pure and then we'll swatch Radon. Now you'll see how similar or different it is. This is Pure and this is Radon. Now you can make the decision for yourself. Pure definitely I feel has like a tint of like, you know, can you see that green coming through? But it is very slight. This also has a little bit of green, but you know, it's very comparable I would say. The base is a little different. Can you see that? This is more like brighter. Yeah, but very slight difference. If you have one, do you need the other? You definitely can make that decision yourself. So those were like my closest, but I also wanted you to see this shade, which is feminine, but this is definitely more on the purple tone, and you'll see like that comparable difference for sure. Can you see that purple coming through? And this is definitely more of like a taupery shade. It has that pinky, purpley iridescent throughout the swatch. Look at that. So this would definitely be different. And the other shade that I wanted to compare it to was Camouflage from the Sugar Drizzle MILF palette. Now this is definitely more green. So let me swatch that too. Can you see that? This is like more of that punchier green. So I would say still out of those white shades, I would say these two are the most similar one from Gourmande Girls. Now the next shade in the palette is Astrid, this one. And definitely has that pink base to a blue shimmer running throughout it. And this totally reminded me of Rose Water from the It Spell palette. So let's watch that. And this is Rose Water. So let's do this first. So this is Astrid. This is Rose Water. And one more shade that I need to compare it to is the Sugar Drizzle MILF palette, and the shade is called Leap. Again, these are very similar I would say, because it has that pinky base but with like that blue shimmer running throughout it. So let me swatch that too. Look at that. I would say all of them are super reflective. I would say the Sugar Drizzle one is the most reflecting out of the whole lot. This one, the last one. But all of them are super comparable, I would say. I would say the first two are the most similar one. The Gourmande Girls and the It Spell one, Rose Water. Wow. So let's move on to the next swatch. Okay, so the next shade is Exquisite. This one, the purple with like a pink base. Can you see that? So let's watch this. And then this totally reminded me of the Gourmande Girls Radioactive palette, and the shade is called Ultraviolet. Can you see this purple with that pink base? So let's swatch that. And also I'm going to swatch it next to Star Ruby. This is also like a purple with like that pink base. Now out of the whole lot, Star Ruby feels like a lot more smoother, and the rest of them, rest of the Gourmande Girls palette, it definitely feels a lot more thicker. So this is Exquisite, this is Ultraviolet, and this is Star Ruby. I would say all of them are super similar to each other. Very pretty. The next shade in the palette is called Radiance, and this totally reminded me of the Stay Radical shade from the Break the Rules palette. So let me show you that. This is the It's Well Cosmetics Break the Rules palette, and this is the shade Stay Radical. I have a big pan going there. I love that shade. Absolutely love that shade. Now, Stay Radical is definitely more of a toppery shade as compared to the Radiance shade. So this is Radiance and this is Stay Radical. Can you see that? Very similar, I would say. Like a pinky orangey base to like a green shimmer running all throughout it. So pretty. I'm so mad. I recorded a video like filming this look. It completely went to waste. It was a complete blur. So not happy about that, but let's concentrate on this video. The next shade that I'm gonna swatch is Nova, because Ethereal is a very unique shade in my collection. I don't have like many comparison shades to this one, especially in the It's Belle or Sugar Drizzle palettes. So let's go to Nova. And this is more of like that blue with like purple shimmer running all throughout it. And we would have a few shades comparable to it. The first one I want to compare is the shade Pond, this one in the Sugar Drizzle MILF palette. So let's swatch that. The next shade that I want to swatch is the Cool Summer palette from It's Belle, the newest palette. And I want to swatch the shade Waves. Very similar one. Again, the Waves shade, this shade is definitely more of a toppery formula, less opaque than the other shades. So let's start with the shade Nova. So this is Nova. And then this is Pond from Sugar Drizzle. And this is Waves from It's Belle. Now, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. First two are very comparable. But the third one, the shade Waves, is definitely different. It's a lot more translucent in nature, but it shifts from that blue to purple. But I would say, yeah, I'm going to stick to the first two. So Pond from Sugar Drizzle palette and Nova from the Ethereal palette from Gourmande Girls. Those would be like the most similar one. The It's Belle Cosmetics Cool Summer palette is definitely a very unique palette. I certainly do not have like a many shades from those palette like repeated in my collection. So I personally feel that that is a very unique color story. And because those shades are like more toppery, it's very sparkly and impactful. All these palettes are very sparkly, but those are like very unique shades, I would say. Okay, the next shades, Sangrila, Lucent, these are all like super unique in my collection. I have a lot of greens, but nothing compared to that green and even that yellow. So I'm going to jump into this shade, which is a Dream, and this is more of like that pink to a golden shade, but it also has like a bits of like orange running throughout it. So let's compare that shade, and that I'm gonna swatch next to the shade Morganite from the Flare palette from It's Belle. So let's do that. This is Dream and this is Morganite. Again, what we are seeing is basically like a pink to a gold flipping shade, but the golds are definitely different. Is it different enough for you to get both of them? Or if you have one, do you need the other? That's a question for yourself. Let's move on. Now this shade Lunar is also pretty unique in my collection. Again, I have a lot of like blue in my collection, but nothing like compared like very similar to this. So let's move on to this shade, and this is Indigo. Very common shade, I would say. This is a shade that we could see like when duochromes came into play. This and that green to like a blue brown shade, that was the most common shade. So let's apply that. This is Indigo. I'm gonna swatch it against Croaky from the MILF palette, that purple to a blue flip shade. So that's Croquis. And also we're going to dip into It's Belle palette, the Break the Rules palette. And we're going to swatch it against Go Rouge shade from the Break the Rules. Again, Go Rouge shade is more of a toppery formula. So it's going to be thinner than the other two. So we're going to swatch Indigo. And then we have Croquis. And then we have Go Rouge. Very, very comparable swatches, all of them, I would say. And this is just natural lighting. I do not have any ring lights against me. It's just the light coming from the window. So keep that in mind. Out of these, like the most sparkly one was the It's Belle one. And that could be because it's more of a toppery shade. So the last shade in this palette is called Emerge. And this is very, very unique in my collection. So that completes this palette. I also want to compare a few more shades. If you are like curious, let's just finish off all the shades. Now, the next shade that I want to compare it to is the Cool Summer palette from It's Belle. And I'm going to swatch this shade, which is Pink Lemonade. And this is more like a pink to gold shade, but this pink is definitely a little more different than the Morganite shade. I'm going to compare that to this shade, which is Gamma Ray from the Radioactive palette. And also, let's compare it to Just Watch from the Break the Rules palette. But Just Watch doesn't have that flip as much as the other two have. So first we have Pink Lemonade. And then we have Gamma Ray. All of them seem to be a little different, I would say. Nothing are like spot on. And then we have Just Watch from the Break the Rules. Yeah, I would say in the monitor, it seems like Just Watch and Pink Lemonade are the most similar. But Pink Lemonade definitely has that flip going on and Just Watch doesn't have. It's just a pure, beautiful, like a rose gold shimmer shade. The other shade that I wanted to compare is Fly Swatter from the MILF palette and Elemental from the Radioactive palette from Gourmande Girls. So let's do that. Fly Swatter and Elemental. Again, these are more like that punchy green to a blue shade. It has a strong blue flip to it. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Can you see that? The top one is the Sugar Drizzle palette and this one is Radioactive. Similar but different. The last shade that I'm going to compare is this shade, which is Quantum from the Gourmande Girls Radioactive palette. And I'm going to compare this to the Lapis Lazuli shade here in the Flare palette. So let's watch that. Quantum and Lapis Lazuli. So Quantum and then Lapis Lazuli. And this is a beautiful like blue, like a royal blue to a purple shifting shade. The first one is Quantum from the Radioactive one. And this bottom one is Lapis Lazuli from the It's Belle one. Feels like Quantum has a little bit of skipping going on. Both very, very beautiful, pretty shades, I would say, but. And that's what I really wanted to do. I really wanted to like compare all my special shades, especially those that are there in the palettes and not like single shadows, because single shadows we still can like find comparison swatches here and there. But if you have like one special palette in your collection, you can figure it out for yourself whether you need the other palette or is it like different enough for you to purchase it. So I really hope that this video was helpful for you guys. If you did like this video, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so that you're notified every time that I post next. I generally upload 3 videos every single week, every Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays at 9 AM Eastern Standard Time. Until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.